Hello everyone, my name is Sin, and welcome back to the channel. For today, I have for you, as you can see, a POE for my league start for the new season of Affliction for Path of Exile's new league starting in 2 days from when this video is coming out. For a quick round of my thoughts on how it looks, in my opinion, the season looks very interesting. I have been craving a big meta shakeup for PoE. I felt like the meta was very stale, and this looks like the perfect league for it. Tons of new gems, tons of new ways of scaling builds. Things are completely different. I'm very interested in seeing how things pan out. So, getting into the build right in front of your eyes. This is going to be my league starter, as you can see, is an Elementalist. Right, Elementalist is my favorite ascendancy in the game. It's probably also the ascendancy I have the most time played with, specifically Ignite. Here we have a Divine Ire Ignite build. So Divine Ire is getting a big change on how it works. This is still with the old version of the gem, but it should just be a straight up buff compared to what we have right now. So the damage you see here, you'll probably have more than that if we were using the new version of the gem. Okay, so this is the level 93. This is the max level 3 that I've made. I also made a couple of leveling trees here that you can follow as you go. Keep in mind that these are mostly for a guideline. I encourage people to make their own decisions. If you feel like you're a tree, like you're dying a lot, you feel like you don't have enough resistance, maybe skip going into this tree and go straight for the life here, go in the middle here, grab more life, right? Make the tree as you go, as your needs adapt to it, and adapt your tree accordingly, right? But other than that, we have here the finalized tree, quote unquote. This is level 90. Obviously, you get more points after that, but for a lot of people, this is where they mostly cap their characters, so I left it here. And whatever other points you get, you can either go into a cluster, or you can decide to go into just grabbing a few jewels here and there to round out your build. So, first off, let's go a quick overview of the build here. We have about 1 million boss DPS here. We have capped resistance, obviously. All of your resistance should be capped, including chaos. I don't have it here because I made very basic items, as you can see here, right? They're not even fully statted. Like, they're 3 out of 6 for the most part on almost all of the pieces of gear that I have on, because I would much rather put the build looking worse than it can actually get, rather than making it look impressive on PoE, but in reality, to get that gear, to get those stats, to get that damage, you need a miracle in game, and I feel like that's super ingenious from content creators. I don't like that, and so I don't do that. I much rather show a build very bare bones, and you can actually get it much better once you actually start playing it and get in there, right? And anybody that looks at this can understand these pieces are not optimal in any way, shape, or form. They're just here so you can have a look of what you should aim for in the main stats, and then build a couple of other things that will much rather have and round out the build to the end, and in the end look a lot better. Okay, so this is the passive tree. We go notable things here. We have Whispers of Doom, we have Eldritch Battery, we take Elemental Overload, and we take a lot of block down here and this wheel here. We take these nodes as well because our main piece of damage is Divine Ire, and Divine Ire scales very well with added physical added as extra, because a massive amount of our damage comes from the gem itself, Divine Ire, which has a component of physical. In fact, all of it's flat. It's physical, but it converts 50% of that into lightning. We further convert another 50% into lightning with this gem here, but added physical as X-ray is still incredibly powerful. So, a quick segue here into the skills. We have Divine Ire with burning damage, ignite prolif, infuse channel, fizz to lightning, and cruelty. Cruelty is almost certainly going to be capped at 40% all the time. If it is not, if you're having difficulty in capping cruelty, then you can swap that out for something like combustion. Or instead of that, you can even swap that out for like swift affliction or deadly elements if you can get the green socket. Other than that, as I said, we have 2 curses because we're using Whispers of Doom. We take Flammability Elemental Weakness, linked to Arcanist Brand, so we can just plop that down on the boss and forget about it. And usually with Arcane Wave of Conviction, we swap out of our Wave of Conviction into Flame Surge once we get a pair of gloves that have inflict fire exposure on hit, applying X amount of fire minus fire resistance. This is a Eater of Worlds implicit you can get by using Ichors on your gloves. And until we get this, we use Wave of Conviction. After that, we use Flame Surge. Flame Surge will do a big chunk of damage on our single target. As you can see, it adds about 20% of our single target damage. So, very good spell. But if we did not have this implicit on the gloves, the exposure that we're applying with a Wave of Conviction would be more important. Okay, so do that first. Then on our shield, we take 3 auras, 3 very important auras. We have Determination, Tempest Shield, and Hatred. Hatred, a big part of our damage as well. All because of Shaper of Flames, all of added damage is accounted for our Ignite, so Hatred is included in that and does a lot of damage for us. Because we have Eldritch Battery, we also use a Divine Blessing setup with Inspiration to reduce the cost. And Malevolence here. We can either use Malevolence or Hatred in our Divine Blessing. It's up to you, depending on your socket colors, depending on what you'd rather have permanently and which one you'd rather trigger. I'll leave that to your discretion. Finally, we have an Arrogance Vitality 2-link and a cast when damage taken Val Molten Shell. Molten Shell is turned off here because I did not want to skewer our effective hit pool to look much better than it actually does. Because we cannot guarantee that we have Molten Shell or Full Molten Shell up all the time. So, once again, I'd rather have it look on the conservative side and whenever possible look much better when we have that ability to. But in this case, we can never have this 100% of the time, right? So I just would rather not take it on. But you should always have Molten Shell with you, or Steel Skin, or if you have any way to generate endurance charges, you can also use Immortal Call instead. And finally, we have Primal Ages. So this 2-link of Arrogance Vitality is because I'm a big advocate for using that on basically all my builds, really. And with that, I use this one Reservation Mastery that adds +1 to all our mental resistance if you have reserved life and mana. We are reserving a very, very small amount of our life with that, basically insignificant. And that allows us to, with a single point and 2 sockets, add a +1 to all of our elemental resistance, which I feel like is very valuable. If you don't want to do that, you can, with these 2 sockets, do really whatever you'd like. But this is what I would recommend. On our items, here we have a 3-stat wand. I didn't want to make this super buffed with all the mods we could get, because once again, it'll skewer the POE. This is already a pretty nice wand, so keep that in mind. Here we have +1 level of lightning spells, fire.multi, and spell damage. You can get a bunch of other things. You can get +1 physical, +1 spell. All of these affect our main damage of Divine Ire. You can get flat, or not flat, generic damage over time multiplier. You can also get added flat on the prefixes. You can get burning damage. You can get fire damage. So a lot of stats that you can get here to buff up our wand. Next, I have Dawnbreaker. This is a shield that comes from the Searing Exarch. I think it's a very farmable unique. In 1 or 2 kills, you're gonna drop it, almost certainly. And it comes with a lot of block, big amount of armor, and a lot of convert into fire damage, and scorch enemies when they're close to us. When you block, of course. Elevor, again, a very common unique. This one is the only one here that is not farmable, but if you're in trade, you should be able to buy this for 1C in the first, at most 5C, I would think, in the first few hours of the league. It comes with a massive amount of suppress, good recovery on suppress, which this build severely lacks because we don't have any good amount of recovery, and avoiding elemental ailments. Here, this is the only piece that we have that is armor energy shield. We use this to be able to cast our divine blessing, okay? And here we just have armor, energy shield, life resist, and Gravicious Crafted mod. If we don't have the Gravicious Crafted mod from Betrayal yet, or you don't want to use it for whatever reason, just craft whatever else you'd like here. You can do Chaos Res, you can do any res that you are missing, stats, up to you. Okay. Gloves, as I said, the most important note here is the fire exposure on hit. You would love to get that as soon as you can possibly do. And suppress, life, chaos res, right? Simple stuff. Suppress, life, movement speed are the main stats here. Resistance as you need them. Whatever else you'd like. Stats, cast speed, whatever you'd like, okay? On the amulet, we have life. This is the only one that also has power, like damage on it. It's a +1 amulet. +1 amulet should be easier to attain for our build than most. We can use both +1 to all spells, or +1 to all skill gems, I should say, +1 to all physical, +1 to all lightning, right? So we can use 3 of the +1 effects. And after we get one, just build our amulet around whatever other stats it came with. Should be fairly easy to attain early on, not super early, but if you're playing quite a bit, you should be able to get this. Or you can just buy a +1 amulet in trade if you're in trade, and they should come down in price very quickly. On the rings, I have an opal and a vermilion. These are end game bases that only drop from red maps. Before that, just use whatever bases you can get, right? You can use topaz, ruby, sapphire, or 2 stones, or whatever your base of choice is. And here I just have life and resistance on both. You can get a lot of stuff here. You can get flat from influence rings, from Shaper and Elder. Bunch of things you can get on rings from influences specifically. You can get a lot of flat from both Shaper and Elder, being respectively flat lightning and flat cold, I believe. The lightning version is easier for us because we always shocking. Here we have a belt. We use a leather belt with life and resistances. You can also use the Abyss League belt, which Stygian Vise, couldn't remember the name, Stygian Vise. And on the Abyss jewel, you want to put a jewel with as much flat as you can possibly get for spells. Would be also a very big addition to our build in terms of damage. Final unique that we have here, Atzir's Promise. Very, very farmable from Atzir herself, being the normal version or the Uber version. Doesn't really matter. Once you get one, you probably get one on your first kill or one of your first few kills at least. Yeah, it's quite nice. After that, we have quartz, we have granite, quartz, quicksilver, and sulfur. Sulfur can be swapped to whatever flask you'd like. And quartz as well to an extent. But the moving 2 units is very, very powerful effect from phasing. On the configs here, again, I think this is a very conservative approach to the POE. We always igniting enemies, yes, of course. This is set up for Pinnacle boss, not Uber Pinnacle, of course. Just, you know, your Shapers, your Elders, Searing and Eater, all of that. We have conversions because we're hitting a unique, so we have that ticked on all the time. The enemies should be always ignited. We're playing an ignite build after all. Is the enemy shocked? It should always be shocked. A great majority of our hit damage is lightning, so it should always be shocked. This is a very conservative approach to the amount of shock. I think a 20 or a 25 is more likely, and that would substantially increase our damage. But once again, looking at it from the weaker side point of view, and if we have any happy surprises while actually playing the build, that's phenomenal. And finally, is infusion active? Absolutely. Yeah, this doesn't do anything for us. And here in the custom modifiers I have this. This is the amount of extra flat that we can get from one of the transfigured gems that are coming in this league. Specifically, Divine Ire of Disintegration. I think that's the better version that we can get for this build. Comes with a lot of flat to the build. And I think this is correct. I have never added custom modifiers, but I think this is correct. And if you remove what I've written before, the actual modifier, it adds automatically to the build, and you can see our damage goes up substantially. And if you want to remove that, just write something before it once again. And yes, I think that's all that is important here in the calculations. We don't have any charges at the moment. No Arcane Search either, so that's it. Items, went through it. Skills, we've been through it. Passive tree, once again. There's a few masteries here, right? Life, increase effect of cruelty. The POB cannot calculate it, so keep in mind we should have a 30% increase in effect on cruelty. That is not being calculated, meaning a bit more damage as well. I have a cluster here that is not active. I do think some of these nodes are probably the best ones we could get, right? Sadis in particular is very easy for us to proc. We can proc all 3 of the effects as the build is right now with no extra effort. From Hatred, from, well, just igniting, and all of our base damage is shock. So should be very easy to just have this node ticked on and do a massive amount of extra damage, about 100k, as the build is right now anyway. And yeah, that's pretty much it. On the notes, I have a bunch of things that I've added here to hopefully help with anybody that is newer to the game or is trying the build for the first time and doesn't know quite where to go from it, how to level it, a bunch of things. Bandits, kill all of them. The order of the ascendancy I've gone through here is Shipper of Flames, Mastermind of Discord, Art of Destruction, Bastion of Elements. I will mess around with Art of Destruction and Shipper of Storms to see if there could be something here, but I think this one is much easier to use and much easier to just take on, and it does its job, while Shaper of Storms might be a bit more fiddly to take effect from. So I'll mess around with that and figure that out, but for now I would recommend going with Heart of Destruction. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any further questions, do feel free to ask me in the comments here. I'll leave the link to the POB in the comment section, or in the description I should say. I hope you enjoyed this build, and Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the league. Looks very fun. Can't wait to try it. Oh, last thing, almost forgot. Last thing, the new ascendancies, the affliction ascendancies. I haven't seen them fully, but from what I could tell, early on, we're probably gonna go with the warlock guy, the one that has all the curses and stuff. And once the build is properly min-maxed, the primalist that allows you to build your own ascendancy essentially should probably be the best. Realistically, if the nodes are any good, it will probably be the best, because that looks absolutely insane for everybody. But yeah, I'll figure that out and hopefully bring you guys an update. I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry for being a bit rambly. This is a video without script. I just really want to get this out for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.